Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today we're taking a look at some custom cards. But before that, I just looked at PokeBeach because I do this every day, and looking for the Pokemon news. It's a great website for like new cards, and I just saw this, which is I don't really know what this is, but I don't know if this is like I don't really know what to say about this one. But anyways, I just saw that. Anyways, I figured I'd say that because I feel like it fits more or less with custom cards. But anyways, we have a bunch of actual cards. First of all, we have some A specs here, and I have looked at all these cards. I am behind on custom cards as well. I will be getting back to that soon. I've been busy lately, especially with some stuff just like in my life, but mostly with or a lot of like YouTube stuff with Pocket and with the new set, which has been really cool, but I've been behind on custom cards. Anyways, you can vote on these custom cards on which ones you like the most and which ones you want to play in my Discord server, which is linked on my channel's homepage. And yeah, you can check that out. It's pretty cool. And you can submit your own cards. I might be changing the system a little bit on how we'll use submit cards in the future. Just keep an eye for that. But anyways, this first one here is Cherish Ball. It's an ace spec, and it says search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal and put it onto your bench, then shelf your deck. It can't be played on your first turn, going first or second there. This is it's like an ace spec, kind of like I proposed this as a change to I think Master Ball or something. Ultimately, this is a card that is like theoretically quite strong, allowing you to get just stage 2 straight into play like Pidgeot EX. But of course, then you also have you can't play it on your first turn. And it is your ace spec, right? It's quite strong for a card, but it is an ace spec. It's probably not game breaking because you can't use it turn 1. It allows for some interesting tech options. It also doesn't trigger abilities like Charizard DX. I don't know how many abilities there are like that, but these are turns in which you could get the stage 2s down or whatever. I'm just saying stage 2s, but it could be any Pokemon. It could be a basic. And I think this is a cool card. I think it's like decently balanced and wouldn't break the game. In some ways, it would like change certain aspects where you can't guarantee that your opponent doesn't have their stage 2s in play by knocking out their basics, but at the same time, if you're playing a stage 2 deck and your basics keep getting knocked out, that's also kind of annoying. So I think this is a pretty cool card. Then we have Master Ball. This is an errata, or a proposed errata of Master Ball, which just says search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Oh wait, Cherish Ball is also, I guess, an errata, because Cherish Ball is in the TCG, but or was in the TCG. But that doesn't really matter here. In Cherish Ball, though, this proposed change says search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then when this card is in your discard pile, you may shuffle it back into your deck. AKA, you can just play it as many times as you want. This feels like a really fair change to Master Ball because theoretically it does stop you from decking out, which I don't really think is the intent of this card. That would only stop you from decking out in um, like if you're not being actively milled. If you're being actively milled or even milled by Misfortune Sisters, you can still deck out. But if you're just drawing and you're down to no cards in deck, you can recycle Master Ball over and over. And this is a use case of it. But obviously the main use is it's an A spec it's a pretty bad A spec, right? Master Ball is one of the weakest, if not the weakest A specs, and that means that you need some boost to it. Also, this pseudo like ability type thing on a trainer or something we have seen Grant, so I definitely don't think this is too out of place and would be a good change to Master Ball. I mean Master Ball gets clowned on a lot for being really bad, but I think this is a good change. And we have Chiyu, and we also have Chimpao. I think there are like the rest of them, but they're not here. And this has the ability Dawn of Time. Also, like the capitalization isn't obviously right. There's a bunch of like spelling there's a bunch of like errors in this card. I don't remember who submitted this, but just wanted to. I'm sure you realize that. But regardless, Dawn of Time says each Fire and Dark Pokemon or Dark type Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, deal 40 more to your opponent's active Pokemon. You can't. This doesn't like stack. Then you have Fiery Revenge, which says it does 20 more damage for each Fire and Darkness Pokemon in play, which is both yours and your opponent's. This is cool, solid synergy. A solid damage output. I think it's a little too strong. No, this is really strong because base for 1 darkness, it's going to be doing 110, I believe. Yeah, it's doing 110 base for 1 darkness, which is really strong, and theoretically doing a lot more. I think it's cool thematically. I definitely toned down the attack and probably toned down the ability as well, but it's pretty cool. And we have Chimpao here with Dawn of Time again. I'd probably change the name of the ability. I'd say Dawn of something, or maybe something of time, make them like fit together, but probably not the same ability. I'm trying to think. There are Pokemon with the same. Now, generally, if Pokemon are like, I don't know. Anyways, it's not. It like doesn't do the same thing. But if you have all 4 in play, then the single prizers, then each Darkness type Pokemon in play both yours and your opponents needs one less darkness energy. I think to attack, I'm assuming. I don't really know what else that would be used for. But yeah, it would be to attack here. And this does 200 for 2 darkness. It can only use an attack if one of your Wu Chen, Pokemon with Wu Chen in its name. So the attack works with Wu Chen EX as well. Wu Chen EX isn't like very good, but is it the worst of them? Was it Chimpao, Chiyu, Tinglu? Yeah, I think it's the worst one. But anyways, it can do 200 for just one here ultimately, and this ability does stack. And this can work. Like you could just have like Roaring Moon EX and then a bunch of then all 4 of the, what are they called? I don't know the name of all 4 of them, but the Legends of Ruin. There we go. I looked at this. So you could have all 4 of them in play, and I believe that's the name, and then have like Roaring Moon EX and then attack for cheaper, and it would stack as well. But that's a lot of pieces to get into play. I think this is a cool concept. Reducing attack cost, I think, is something that's cool, allowing you to open up more interesting options within decks. And yeah, I'll be interested in seeing the rest of the combo pieces as well. But then next we have another race spec, Super Collapse Stadium. Each player can only have up to 2 bench Pokemon in play. If they have 3 or more, they discard, and it's like Collapse Stadium, but it's 2. This is really interesting, really severe, but it's also an ace spec. Can be bumped. There's no I don't remember if what's the other ace spec stadium? I'm blank on the neutralization center or neutralization zone. I don't remember. I was playing with it in a video and I kept getting the name wrong. But the ace spec stadium, I believe it can't be recovered, but it doesn't have like protection from anything as far as I'm aware. I don't remember though. But then the Prism Star Stadiums, there we go. I was blanking on the name. Those did have protection. This has no form from it. They have protection from like certain bumps like Field Blower, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but there's protection from some things. This doesn't have any of that. So your opponent can counter this, and you're not gonna just like win the game on playing this. Like you're not just gonna remove all their Pokemon, then knock out the rest of them. In standard and expanded, you might just win the game. But I think this is a pretty fair ace spec. Collapse Stadium feels pretty fair, honestly. I think it's a pretty well designed stadium in standard right now. It's something that has upside, doesn't have super massive downside, and doesn't feel too annoying to play against, though it is a little annoying with Area Zero Underdepths that kind of like fight each other, which is kind of intentional, but I don't know exactly how intentional it is. But regardless, this is a pretty neat ace spec, and yeah, it is quite strong, but it is an ace spec as well. I think neutralization zone or whatever, the ace spec feels pretty. I don't know. It always felt really bad to me. Like it doesn't have immediate value, and then your opponent just like bumps it, or you just win. Like, there's like no in between. This is definitely a stadium with more nuance than neutralization center. Then you have Zager Cube. Oh, these cards are like cropped weirdly. I don't remember why that is. I think the person who was submitting these had issues with like screenshotting or something. Normally you can just copy them from PokeCardMaker.net. But regardless, Zygarde Cube. I don't remember if this is the updated one or not. This is the one that was submitted. But it says put a Zygarde Cell from your discard into your hand, which is a Pokemon. It says once during a turn, if this card's in your discard, choose one, flip coin. If heads, put it from your discard into your hand, or discard 3 other Zygarde Cube cards from your hand to put a full form Zygarde from your discard onto your bench. So you can play like 4 at once, or I guess you play 3 at once and have the other one in the discard. And the idea is to build up to the full form Zygarde. You have Zygarde Cell, which is the item, which is the smallest form of Zygarde, and you have Zager Cell, which is you may play 1, 2, or 4 of this. If you played 1, put the 10% form from your discard into your bench. If you put 2, do the 50%. If you did 4, put the full 1, and then you have the different Zygarde forms. This one here says Cell Connection. There we go. Once during a turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, put a Zygarde Cell from your discard into your hand. So you have this like bouncing the Zygarde cells back and forth, dashing acceleration. Attach a basic energy from your discard pile to each of your Pokemon with Zygarde in its name, and it does 40 more for each energy attached in this way, which is pretty interesting. Theoretically, this can do a good chunk of damage, and it is a basic, but that's only if you have a bunch of Zygardes in play and a bunch of energies in the discard as well. You need both of those. And we have the 50% form Zygarde. Oh, and then you can, you can evolve these normally as well as like a stage 2. Cell Connection. For some reason, I don't know why this is like this, but it is 150 for 2. And you can put any number of 10% form Zygarde from your discard onto your bench as well. once during a turn, you may discard a card from your hand. If you do, look at your prize cards. You may reveal a Zygarde cell card you find there and put it into your hand because you really want all four to get the stage 2 out consistently, which is a 230 HP stage 2. But it can only be put into play by the effect of Zygarde cell. So you need the Zygarde cell. And if at any time you do not have the 50% form or the 10% form in play, this Pokemon is knocked out. It doesn't just get discarded, it gets knocked out. But obviously you would never play this if you don't have those in play. So you need a lot of different things going on. And then you have Omega Blast. Lightning Fighting, it does 240. Discard a 50% form Zygarde and a 10% form Zygarde from your bench. If you do, your opponent's active is knocked out. This is kind of interesting. This is kind of weird. I feel like the attack is kind of confusing. 240 is knocking things out, and if you're not knocking them out, then you can discard it to get the knockout on top of that. This attack is kind of like Roaring Moon EX, I'd say. Like, you have two different options. Your Zygarde is probably going to die if you discard the bench ones, because you probably won't have all of them in play. I think this is a cool concept. I think the attack's kind of weird. I think it should, like, knock out a bench Pokemon in addition, so you can have something super powerful. I guess you will always be able to discard the bench ones. You might get knocked out, but you will have that option because they have to be in play for the ability to work. In standard at the very least. So I guess you could be like Clefkeel, or no, you could be Fluttermane locked, but that's not super likely. This is a cool combo. I think it's a little complicated. I do like complicated things. This is interesting. There's a lot of moving pieces here. But it is interesting. I think I'd definitely change the way the attack on the full form works. But these are definitely cool. It's kind of weird them being like stage 2s because normally it's basics, but that's not like that big of an issue. This is interesting. You can play all of them. You can play 4 of each. And you have this really interesting like single prize combo deck, kind of like the Reggies, but the cards are more like you have to play them in certain ways, which I'm not a massive fan of. I'd rather cards be like, for example, the Reggie deck, you can play them separately. There's certain cards like Regirock, you never played separately, but I think the other ones have seen play. I mean, Regigigas has seen play, and Regidraco's seen play, I think, though not that much. Regieleki has seen play. Regardless, this is a cool combo. I think it's a little convoluted, though. And we have Arvins Feast. This says shuffle one of your Pokemon into your deck, discard. I think this is in play. Yeah, shuffle one of your Pokemon in play into your deck. You discard the attached cards, then choose one. I'm pretty sure it's in play. It could be from like anywhere, but I think it could be from the discard as well. But I'm pretty sure it's from play. You can flip a coin if heads, search your deck for a card, or you choose one. Flip a coin if heads, search your deck for a card, or draw 2 cards and flip a coin if heads, draw 1 more. This high risk, high reward option, or low risk, low reward option as well. The low risk one isn't like, this is an interesting card, shuffling a Pokemon into your deck. I think it's like Cassius or something. This is a cool supporter. I think I'm not generally a big fan of like super coin flippy, risky effects. I've been playing Pocket recently a bunch as well, and that's got a bit of a problem with coin flips right now. But anyways, Arvin, this is an interesting card. Nothing too crazy going on here. It is quite strong as well, but it's not absolutely insane either. I'm trying to think, like, it is like a full heal, but you're discarding the attached cards. I think it's a pretty solid card. New Pheromosa. This has the ability to sneak peek. Once during a turn, you may look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You may discard that card. If you do, discard the top card of your deck, and you can't use more than one of this ability per turn, even if you have multiple Pheromosas. You also have Cleaning Kicks for 3 grass. Does 10 for each item in your opponent's discard. This is pretty interesting. The attack is cool because it does good damage. It doesn't do great damage. I would probably increase the attack's power. Though ultimately the ability is quite good for mill as well. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's decently balanced as well the way it is. This is kind of cool because of course there is the Garbodor with Trash Lance, which was a similar attack. Ultimately much better than this attack. Despite this being a basic, it's still much better. The evolution is still much better. But this is a really interesting Pokemon with a combo between the ability and the attack, but it also has, like, you can use them separately. I mean, I guess if you're using the attack, you want to be using the ability, but you can use the ability without initially looking for the attack in just a mill deck. And this is a solid mill ability. Ultimately, mill is something that's been pretty bad in the Pokemon TCG really almost forever. I can't think of any particularly great mill decks. There was the Durant deck, which was, certainly a viable deck, but not a great deck. I don't think. I didn't really play not much back then, but it's not like one of the most, like, it's probably the most well-known mill deck, I guess, especially because it got like pseudo reprinted. But regardless, Pheromosa is really solid mill card that could help out a deck like Great Tusk. We have Bronzong with its ability Extreme Power Boost. Once during your turn, you may discard 2 energy from one of your Pokemon. If you do until the end of your turn, treat all non-colorless energy, or no, yeah, non-colorless energy in the cost of that Pokemon's attacks as metal. This is really cool. And okay, it's not supposed to be used on itself. Absorbing Power says attach up to 2 metal energy from your discard to this Pokemon. It does 90 more for each energy attached in this way. Then move all energy from this Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. This is kind of weird. This seems very strong. Like, it's 190 for 1 colorless, plus some, like, upside, right? It's not really having downside here. I feel like this attack is too strong. It's kind of like, I feel like it's like one of the other ones we saw before. Might have been one of the Zygers, but I think this one's definitely, like, too strong of an attack. The ability is really interesting, though, allowing you to do... I don't exactly know the best use case of this, but this allows you to use all sorts of weird attacks with Bronzong. The attack does power up the other Pokemon. At that point, I feel like this Pokemon shouldn't be one. I'm not exactly sure. Like, the attack, you want it to be good to use, and it's very good to use right now. It's like super strong. Ultimately, it's very good. It's probably like too strong, but also like stage 1 single prize is generally not very good. So I don't even know if this attack would just be broken. As I said, its power level is really high, but plus with the ability, it's really strong. But it might be something you kind of need. There isn't with our Caledon EX, especially right now. Though this was before our Caledon EX, it's probably too good, but. Regardless, it's still a really unique ability. I'm trying to think if it would be broken. It'd be solid, but you can't like our Caledon just a random Pokemon either. So definitely a really cool ability. Then we have Pokemon Team Energy, which goes with these team Pokemon, these like Team Rush Pokemon or something. So as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon with the Team Rush attack, it provides every energy type, but only 2 at a time. And then if this card is attached to a Pokemon without the Team Rush attack, discard this card. Okay. And we have Team Rush, which is, this just pays it. Okay. And that does 40. Oh, so this one does, okay, never mind. They're kind of different, but it's generally that's something like that. So this one is 40 more for each of your different Pokemon to play with it. I think it should say differently named. I don't remember. I think it should say differently named, but regardless. Different Pokemon to play with a Team Rush attack, including itself, and Team Defense says this Pokemon takes 10 less damage from attacks for each of your different Pokemon with the Team Rush attack in play. So this is cool. This is kind of like less our rollout, but like better and more interesting at least. Then we got Leader Blastoise. Not sure why these have different names. That's kind of random. But regardless, the ability to recruit once during your turn, and has the same attack for 2 water though. You may search your deck for a Pokemon with a Team Rush attack and reveal it and put it into your hand. Okay, that's cool. This is a stage 2 as well, so keep that in mind for balancing. And then Team Fever Pikachu, 70, and it does 40 and 30 more for each of your different Pokemon with the Team Rush attack in play, and most of them are evolutions. The others are all evolutions, so you're not going to be hitting that much turn 1. You're just going to be hitting 70 for 1 attachment. Pretty simple and straightforward, but can be used as the basic later on in the game. Then we have Flares of Protection. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to your bench Pokemon that have the Team Rush attack. That's cool. I don't know exactly how useful this is, but this is solid, especially for protecting the Pikachu. And you have Team Rush, which does 30, 50 more for each of your different Pokemon with the Team Rush attack in play. Theoretically hitting, let's say you have all 6 in play, right? That's the most you can have. That's going to be, because there's only 6, not because you can only have 6 Pokemon in play, because you could have Area 0 Under Depths, but regardless, this is going to do 50 multiplier for 1 times 6 plus 10. Yeah, so this will be like one-shotting pretty much everything. And same attack on the Vaporeon and Jolteon, though they are for 3 energy, not just 2. So keep that in mind. And yeah, really nice ability here as well. Solid HP, though kind of, low HP. This Vaporeon's HP is quite low. The Jolteon X's is very low as well. Though I'm not super familiar with the average HP of Stage 1 EXs because they don't see too much play, but these definitely seem very low. But regardless, Vaporeon EX here does Morale Boost, says each of your Pokemon with a Team Rush attack gains, I think it's just a gains, or has, I don't remember, I can't think of too many attack or HP boosting cards in like the game really just in general. But regardless, they have 30 more HP, and it does not stack as well. I don't think it's necessarily an issue if it's stacked, but especially because you're reducing your damage output at that point. But oh, and then I guess that's why you have lower HP, because you have this powerful ability. You have Jolteon EX as well, which has the ability Team Charge. Once in your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon Team energy card and attach it to. Oh yeah, that's the name of the energy, I think. And attach it to one of your Pokemon with the Team Rush attack. It can't use more than one this ability per turn. I think this ability is a little too strong for powering up Jolteon EX and stuff, and also it's kind of limiting. It's kind of like Houndoom. I feel like Houndoom was always a card, which isn't this now. The single strike one always felt like a bit of a limiting, kind of boring card. It kind of defined the archetype, but it was also, in my opinion, kind of boring. And I think I view it kind of similarly as this Jolteon, but I do like the Team Rush archetype. It is cool. Ultimately, I might like to see them work separately to some degree. I mentioned that with the Reggies, saying that the Reggies do that well. And still, Jolteon EX is or like the Team Rush archetype as a whole is pretty neat. And overall, like an improved version of something like Let's All Rollout, which is really bad. Let's All Rollout was really bad, but this is way cooler. You have Spiritomb, and this says, once during your turn, you may attach this card from your hand to one of your Pokemon as a special energy. It provides one energy of any type while attached. During Pokemon checkup, place 2 damage counters on the Pokemon this card is attached to. Its effect cannot be blocked. Okay, wait, I was just reading it. I didn't really comprehend the words. So, okay, this is really interesting. It does have an attack, has some other stats. They don't really matter at all, though. I think you should limit this ability to once per turn. When it's doing the turn thing, it doesn't really matter, right? Because you can just use it. It's per Spiritomb, right? So you could play 4 Spiritomb, or just like have them and just attach them all. And this effect cannot be blocked is kind of interesting as well. Then I assume it gets discarded if the Pokemon it's attached to gets knocked out. But regardless, this is interesting. Obviously, the self-damage could be like really rough, but theoretically, you could just go turn 1 and attach a bunch of Spiritombs from your hand. Or does this provide? Is this the energy attachment for turn? I'm not sure. And I'm trying to think of cards like Charger Bug was like this, and that was a long time ago. But regardless, that card was kind of like this, and you just attached it, and it wasn't your energy attachment for turn. And so I think this would work the same way. I think it would be balanced if it's your energy attachment for turn. I think if it's not, it's super broken. But regardless, this is a really interesting card. I don't remember who made this. But yeah, this is definitely interesting. As I said, very broken. If you can attach it as many as you like, you could just attach 4 of any energy to like your Pokemon and just go boom and knock something out. But it is really interesting with the downside and the upside, and the upside could be treated as a downside, or no, the downside could be treated as an upside if you're playing a deck where you want self-damage as well, which is really cool. Self-damage is an interesting thing in the Pokemon TCG that's sometimes touched on in Hisuian Zoroark, V-Star, and Dodrio, and Scorvillin EX, and various Pokemon, and some more support as well as downside for that would be cool. Its Spiritomb has interacted with self-damage before as well with the Spiritomb from Unbroken Bond. So this is a really fun card in just a lot of different ways, including thematically. And we have UEX here, which is this an AI-generated image? It kind of looks like it. It's kind of weird, like the eyes. Regardless, Realm of Dreams here says, once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your Lost Zone. You can't use more than one of this ability per turn. And Lost Memories says, for Psychic Colossus, choose an attack from one of your Pokemon in the Lost Zone and use it as this attack. It also has Fever Tree and generally the same stats as UEX, the current one. I love this Pokemon. This is probably my favorite one, or one of my favorites from all the cards I've seen. Ultimately, there's a Mew, I believe it was Mew Prime from Call of Legends, Triumphant. I don't know, from some old set, and it was it was very similar to this, and it might be a little too good for just powering up. That's probably not too powerful for powering up the Lost Zone. It's good, but it's not like broken. This is pretty cool as you can use this Lost Memories attack to do some really interesting things to copy Stage 2s. I've really been missing a way to copy Evolution Pokemon. We haven't seen that since Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, which was one of my favorite cards of all time. I didn't play with it that much, but I played with it some, and it was really, really fun and versatile. You can play it in expanded, but it doesn't have its full box of tricks. Or you can play it in live expanded, but that doesn't have the full box of tricks as like full expanded, which some of those are really, really cool, including some copying attacks and like damage moving attacks and interesting ones just in general. But in UEX, this card seems so cool. I don't know if it would be broken. Don't I don't know. I honestly don't know. But it would be quite good and it would be really fun. Definitely a really, really cool card. I might actually make the attack cost more expensive. Like I'm trying to think of attacks. Oh no, I might make it so you need the attack, like to be able to fulfill the attack cost of the cards you put in the Lost Zone, because you could just like go like, oh, I'm gonna Dialga Restart. Oh, now I'm gonna Dragon Ball EX, and it's like, oh, well, all of a sudden I'm like pulling off these like crazy attacks back to back to back, and just for this relatively payable attack cost, not super free, but relatively payable, there's still a super awesome card. And we have Espeon and Umbreon. Oh, these also go to the Lost Zone. And so Espeon here says, why is the Umbreon like blurry? Anyways, Espeon says once during a turn you may reveal 2 cards from your hand and shuffle them into your deck. If you do, put a card from your Lost Zone into your hand. I don't really love this because taking out from the Lost Zone feels kind of like counter, Lost Zone. Like Lost Zone's supposed to be like you can't get stuff back from it. I've seen there's a game called Dominion and there's something called the Trash, and then there are cards that got back from the Trash, and it's like, oh, that's like kind of counterintuitive because it's like, oh, you're not supposed to get stuff back from it. And I feel kind of the same way about Espeon. I don't think it's something that's like, I don't expect it to happen. I mean, the Lost One's like a seasonal mechanic, something that we've seen a few times, and we'll probably see again in another like 3 years or 4 or 5. I don't know. But regardless, Espeon, this is kind of interesting. In the Mind's Abyss says you can only use this if you have 5 or more in the Lost Zone, and taking stuff out obviously would reduce that. Put 6 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon anyway. Like I do like the attack, nothing super crazy, but pretty fitting with the Lost Zone ideas and pretty fairly balanced. It looks like. I think I don't really love this ability. I mean, the Lost Zone's kind of weird. There's lots of strange stuff going on where it's like, oh, you look at a few cards and you put them into the Lost Zone essentially kind of at random, and so this kind of removes the punishing randomness, which honestly isn't always very fun. Within the Lost Zone deck, it does define it, but also it feels like you just like lose the game because you got unlucky, which doesn't happen that often, but it does happen some. It feels more often like you lose the game because you never draw Colossus Experiment. But regardless, you can get really bad luck with your Lost Zone, like with your Comfies, and this will help you get like escape that. But ultimately, I'm not a big fan of removing stuff from the Lost Zone. I do like copying stuff from it, but this isn't that. Then we have Umbreon, which is once in your turn you may put a card from your hand into the Lost Zone. If you do, draw 2. And you can also do Shadow Strike, which is 10 for 3 colors, 20 more for each card in your Lost Zone. Oh, this should say 10 plus, but whatever. Yeah, this is like a solid attack. I think it feels decently balanced, maybe a little too good. Like ultimately, this ability is really good, though not broken. I think I'd probably, honestly, I might just say put 1 in the Lost Zone, draw 1, because you want stuff in the Lost Zone, and then I'd honestly team Shadows. I'd say Shadow Strike should be 2 colors and 10 more for each card in the Lost Zone, because you can use Reversal, reducing the attack cost by 1 colorless isn't that bad, isn't that meaningful, and then also, that's just personally how I'd change it. This card does seem like decently fair, quite strong, but decently fair as well. When you have Yanmega EX and there's Yanma, draw 2 if you have any cards, or if you drew any. If any of the cards you drew had Yanmega in its name, you put it onto this Pokemon to evolve it. That's kind of interesting, and you have a hit and run attack as well. Then you have Yanmega here. Reset, shuffle, draw 7. Hunt and gather 90 for 2. If you have 1 or more cards in hand, then your opponent, then you put 3 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. This is kind of cool, with like some synergy with drawing as well. Then we have Yanmega EX. Speedy draw during Pokemon checkup. You may draw a card. This is interesting. Pokemon Checkup is something that Pokemon's been playing around a bit more recently, specifically with the Frostlass, which is a really interesting card design that is arguably good, arguably bad. There's like lots of weird stuff going on with that, and so we might see more playing around with the Pokemon Checkup. And I think it's not something that before Frostlass, I probably would have said like maybe shy away from messing too much with Pokemon Checkup, but now I think it's something that's like pretty cool to see what Pokemon's going to do with. I'm surprised this, and also these don't need to be things that cards that Pokemon would make. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to look at custom cards. But now I definitely think this is a completely fair game. Surprise Assault though for 1 grass 120. If it was on the bench and switch to the active, it does 60 more. If this Pokemon has 2 or more basic grass attached, it does another 60 more. So they'll be hitting 180 for 1 or or 240 for 2. And that's pretty cool. But 2 basic grass though, keep that in mind, but that's not like that hard to pay. I do like this card. You got a few different options. Pokemon Checkup Draw thing is kind of interesting. Overall, I do like this Pokemon a lot. I think it has a lot of different like cool things going on. You get free retreat. You just got the Huyan Mega Hand stuff, which is Yanmega is one of the Pokemon. Which, if you ever played Cube form, I haven't really played much Cube, but Yanmega is really popular in Cube. It's probably one of people's favorite. There's two really cool Yanmegas. One really cool Yanmega Prime, and there's another one as well. Then we have Substitute Doll, and this goes with the Substitute deck. And it says it's an item with 90 HP essentially. You'll see it's like the doll cards, but I mean it is a doll card. But it says play this as if it were a 90 HP basic. When it's placed onto your bench, move it into your active spot at any time during your turn. You may discard this from play, and it can't be affected by special conditions. It can't retreat. If it leaves the active, discard it. And if it, but when knocked out, your opponent can't take any prizes. I definitely toned down this HP. I guess it does have to go in the active, which is like a downside from some of the other dolls, but it's not like that bad. Like you probably want it in the active, right? And then I guess you can get stuck. Oh, it can get stuck as well. It's not really a pivot, so it's kind of interesting. Maybe it's not that good. I'm not really sure, but it involves interaction with some of the other cards as well. But ultimately, this is a little weird. Like you could just play substitute, and then your opponent plays substitute, and now you're stuck. Like because you can't retreat. You can't discard it to switch it out. Oh no, you can. You can discard it. So I think it's a little too strong with its HP. I mean, we've seen other dolls. Ultimately, HP on the dolls doesn't really matter that much, though, to be honest. So yeah, you can just discard it from play. It does have to go into the active, though. You can't sit and hold it on your bench. So I think this card's like decently fair. The dolls traditionally have had 30 HP. Snorlax doll has 120, but it's essentially unplayable. So ultimately, Substitute Doll is a pretty interesting card here, though. But we'll talk about that in just a minute because we have all these. We have 4 Pokemon. Oh, wait, no. We got Shroodle here first through the ability Substitute. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a basic energy card and attach it to one of your Pokemon with the ability Substitute, then shuffle your deck. And also Venom Splash for free. Your opponent's active is now poisoned during Pokemon Checkup. Put 2 damage counters instead of 1, which is fine. A decently cool attack, though. Pretty simple and straightforward for a basic as well. But we have Kecleon here, which is the first substitute Pokemon, which has, it's a little hard to read. It's not that hard, but it's a little awkward with the full art, but it does look cool. Once during a turn, you may put 3 damage counters on this Pokemon. If you do, search your deck for the card Substitute Doll, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. When the Substitute Doll is in the active spot, this Pokemon may attack from the bench. This is really cool, as you do have 3 Pokemon with this ability as well. We have Grafaiai and we have Frogadier as well. So you can use this ability and you damage yourself, which isn't ideal, but then you swap a Substitute Doll with it, and now you're attacking from the bench while your opponent isn't able to attack you. This might be a little it might be really annoying. You can't really recover Substitute Doll, there we go, very well, but you can kind of do it, and that would get super annoying. The self-damage isn't that big of a deal. Ultimately, it matters if your opponent's hitting around. All these do have 90 HP as well. But ultimately, attack from the bench is really interesting. But then you do need the energy still. Whiptail here says, for 3 colors on a basic, this attack is the same type as all basic energy attached to this Pokemon. I think I should say this Pokemon is the same type as all basic energy attached to it, because attacks don't really have types, but like the type matters for the attack, and regardless, like I definitely understand. I mean, I don't know. I guess do attacks have types? It's never addressed, right? Like, so I don't think they've ever been referred to as types. We could say the attack has a type that's hitting for weakness and resistance, but the Pokemon doesn't. Regardless, this is a solid attack. Honestly, I feel like I might tone it down a little, as you are playing a very like stally deck. Toxic Paint does 70 for 2 darkness colors on a stage 1. Defending Pokemon is poisoned during checkup. Put 4 more damage counters on them. That's pretty solid. That's a good chunk of damage. That's 4 more. Yeah, so that's going to be doing 120 at least, which is a good chunk of damage, though nothing insane. And then you do poison over time as well. And then you have Frogadier here, which has the attack Water Pulse. It does 70 for 2, and on a coin flip, it confuses. Ultimately, I feel like this attack's a little weaker. I think like the balance is fair. There's some like weird combo that I'll save in case you do end up playing with these cards. As I said, you can vote for them, and we'll play with them on PTCG Simulator, I'm pretty sure, at some point. So, no, I did not mean to do that. This Frogadier is definitely a pretty interesting card. And all 3 are with their substitute ability. The Shroodle's not. Oh, I guess Shroodle just evolves into Grafaiai as well. So that has like some stuff to help out with these cards. Kecleon. Oh wait, no, Shroodle's actually really strong, as you can go turn 1, just like accelerate a bunch of energy to the Kecleon with a bunch of Shroodles. I think Shroodle might be a little too strong. Like, I feel like the attacks are like relatively fair without Shroodle, but then Shroodle does help him out in a bunch. Regardless, I think this concept is really fun with this like switching in and out type of thing. Yeah, definitely would love to see something like this. Maybe not in the actual TCG. It might be a bit complicated for a lot of people, but it is really, really fun. Then we have some Dragon Pokemon in Double Dragon Energy. This is Double Dragon Energy. 2 energy of any type on a Dragon Pokemon, except it's just an Ace Spec because Double Dragon was super broken, and so yeah, Double Dragon is one of the best cards in Expanded right now. It's really it's one of the defining cards of the format, I think, or at least it was like a months ago. I haven't really been paying very much attention to Expanded, but regardless, this is Dragonite EX with Hurricane Charge. Let's go. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic water and or a basic lightning from your hand to your Pokemon anywhere you like. We saw this ability on a Dragonite from Unified Minds, which is the highlight card of the Soaring Storm theme deck, which is generally regarded as the best theme deck. It's very good. And theme was a format that I enjoyed a lot on Pokemon TCG Online. Probably the best feature, in my opinion, of PTCGO over the Pokemon TCG Live. There are good chunk of differences, but that's probably the biggest thing, in my opinion. But regardless, Draconic orders here for Water, Lightning Colorless. Choose an attack from a Dragon Pokemon in your discard and use it as this attack. Ultimately, this attack is the same exact thing as Regidrago V-Star. I'd like to see it a little more. I don't know. I feel like it's a little boring. Like, it's kind of. It's obviously the exact same, and it's fine, it's fair. But ultimately, I'd like to see something a little more unique, I think. But it is a cool card. Then we have Excalibur, again with 330 HP. And the Dragon does have the ability, and it has the attack and the higher HP as a stage 2. It's not going to play the exact same as Regidrago V-Star, but still obviously very similar. But we have Thermal Exchange here. If your opponent has any fire Pokemon to play, it does 50 more to your opponent's active. I feel like that comes in sometimes, and it's a fair ability, but I don't know if it makes a lot of sense canonically because I haven't played the video game. But this ability is like kind of mediocre and niche, but whatever. It's not a bad ability. We've certainly seen ones like this. Then Glaive Rush for the same attack cost as the Dragonite EX with Water, Lightning Colorless. It does 300. This Pokemon take double damage from attacks during your opponent's next turn. I feel like this attack's a little weak. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's going to get knocked out, presumably next turn, by kind of just like whatever. This is a really interesting downside, though. This isn't one-shot everything. I'd like to see it one-shot a Charizard EX, probably. I mean, it probably one-shots a Charizard EX, but probably not one-shotting a Dragon Ball EX, because they probably won't have, like, Radiant Charizard down, especially if they know that this is coming. But definitely an interesting card with some interesting concepts here, specifically with the taking double damage next turn as a really serious downside. But it doesn't always matter that much either if they're just going to one-shot you anyways. Then we have this last set of cards here, which is this Sweet Honey, Vespiquen, and Combee. Combee is nothing particularly special. Sweet Honey says when this card is attached, it's a tool. I thought it was an item. It's not. When this card is attached to Vespiquen or Vespiquen EX, which we don't have, and it uses an attack, that attack costs 1 energy less of any type. And Vespiquen here for 2 colors does 80, and 80 for each your Combee on the bench, and your ability Honey Gather. Once on your turn, you may draw a card for each Combee in play. If the Pokemon tool card Sweet Honey is attached, you draw 1 extra. This is a solid card, nothing too crazy going on here, but is kind of fun. Synergizes a lot, or makes a lot of sense with the other Vespiquens we've seen as well, and like Combees and stuff. But anyways, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all that good stuff, and check out these cards in Discord. Submit your own. I will be going over them. I'll be catching up at some point. I'll have some extra time soon, but I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.